My name's Scott McHenry, and this is a bit of me. It's called Old, Then New. The quilt is old, faded and ragged. Ragged around the edges, ragged around the borders of the little squares. Been well used, this quilt. Hard used, long used. Lord, it warmed my son, the fiddle player, when he was alive. Grandma and her sisters made this quilt, and a neighbor lady. The frame took up most of Grandma's cellar house. Ever see a quilting frame? No? Most people haven't. Grandma's was made of oak, old oak, some cherry wood too. I don't know that oak's what all frames are made of. This one was, because the wood they used came from the old barn they took down. The barn was taken down so the county could put a road up the creek. A wider road, actually, wider than horses and wagons needed. County wanted a wider road, and the barn was in the way. Hadn't been in the way when it was built. Built on stone, nothing to be in the way of. Built way back when, before Mr. Jefferson sent those men out west. Weren't nobody much along the creek then. Still wasn't in the way when McClellan's horse soldiers rode through, just a-looking. I reckon they liked what they saw, because they took the family's horses with them. Old even then, that barn stood for another while, another generation. But the new age spelled the end for the old, sound barn. So they had all this wood, a barn's worth of long-cured West Virginia hardwood. An uncle took some walnut from a door sill, made a gun stock. See it over there? Hanging on the wall at 45-70? Sure it shoots. Grandma's pap made a cradle out of some maple. There's my grandson in it now. His brother, without child, made a fiddle from cherry. Passed it on to my boy. And Pap made Mam her very own, never had one before, quilting frame. Built it in the cellar house, out of the way, where it stayed for a long, long time. Too heavy to move, without a whole lot of reason, so it stood right there. Mom and her sisters taught 3 generations how to quilt. Probably 5, 6 quilts for every horse, cow, sheep, and dog ever lived in the old barn. Could have been 200 children wrapped in quilts made from that old frame. I mean, children, we call them kids nowadays, are still sleeping under some of those old quilts. That's what I started to tell you about that old quilt there. over the boy. Yep, it's ragged, but the batten's still fluffy, still warm. Heck, things made of wool mostly, from old suits and blankets, you know. Grandma and them could tell you where every square in that quilt come from. That's history right there. Can't teach that in school. Can't put that in a book. Suits worn by men fought in France, in Germany, in Japan, Korea too. Blankets the children of those men slept under, dreaming of Daddy coming home. Well, you know, Dad didn't always come home. My dad died at Incheon. My son in the Afghan. My grandson won't hear his dad's cherry wood fiddle. It's in pieces overseas. Yeah, the barn got old. Was in the way. Got used for something new. The suits and blankets got old. Got used to make something new. Pap, Ma'am, Grandmas, her sisters, all got old. The neighbor lady, too. Me, too. I'm getting old. Ain't nobody's way yet. And that rifle still shoots. The frame got old, too. Nobody used it anymore. Bigger family, it was in the way. With any luck, that sweet little boy yonder in the maple cradle, he'll get old too. That's the way of life. New, then old, then new. He won't know her that made his quilt, ragged but warm. He won't know him that made his cradle, rocking so smooth. With any luck and the creeks don't rise, he'll know me. He has my eyes. What's that you say? The frame, old, in the way? Well, look at yonder, in the little one's hand. You see what I mean? Do you see the cherry wood fiddle bow? That's that.